Brought to you by Penguin.
The Little Teashop of Lost and Found, written by Trisha Ashley and read by Colleen Prendergast. Prologue. West Yorkshire. Liz, the 2nd of March, 1978. There had been no signs to warn me of the imminent catastrophe about to overtake me, or if there had been, I was oblivious to them. When everything kicked off that night, I felt as if I'd been catapulted straight into a horror movie, and a gross one at that. Oh, the nightmare from hell. Fear and confusion were quickly followed by realization, panic, shock and revulsion. For who'd have thought a birth involved so much goriness? Certainly not me, even though, ironically enough, my sights had refocused on gaining an Oxford place to read medicine the very moment my brief first love affair the previous summer had come to an end. But then, that wasn't because I felt any kind of vocation to heal the sick, the halt and the lame. It was simply part of my plan to mould myself so much in Father's image that he forgot I wasn't actually his biological child at all. As these thoughts jostled chaotically together in my normally clear, cool and analytical mind, my eyes met Mum's over the small, misshapen, skinned rabbit of a thing that lay weakly mewling on the bed between us, and I expect the expression on her ashen, stunned face mirrored my own. Her mouth moved silently once or twice, as if it had forgotten how to shape words. Then finally she whispered, "Liz, your father must never find out." She always was entirely mistress of the bleeding obvious. Chapter 1. Once Upon a Fairy Tale. Alice, Autumn 1995. I grew up knowing I was adopted, so it was never a shocking revelation, merely one of the things that defined me, like having curly, copper-bright hair, distinctive dark eyebrows, a fine, silvery scar above my upper lip, and pale green eyes, like boiled gooseberries according to Mum, though Dad said they were mermaid's eyes, the colour of sea-washed green glass. As a little girl, I'd sit for hours painting with Dad in his garden studio, while his deep, gentle voice wrapped me in a soft-spun fairy tale, in which my desperate young birth mother had been forced to abandon her poorly, premature little baby, hoping that someone like Mum and Dad would come along and adopt her. Or like Dad, at any rate, since eventually I came to see that Nessa, she'd insisted I call her that rather than Mummy, practically the moment I could string a sentence together, had had no maternal yearnings. She'd just been paying lip service to his longing for a family, smug in the knowledge that she couldn't physically carry a child, even if she had wanted to. A bad fairy had put a spell on baby Alice, but when the nice doctors had made her lip all better, everyone agreed she was the prettiest princess in the whole of Yorkshire. He'd finish his story, smiling at me over his canvas. And they put the wicked fairy in a metal cage, and everyone threw rotten tomatoes at her, I'd suggest, or even worse punishments, for some old fairy tale books given to me by my paternal grandmother, including one strangely but wonderfully illustrated by Arthur Rackham, had had a great influence on my imagination. We lived near Granny Rose in Knaresborough until moving to a village just outside Shrewsbury when I was 8, and I can still remember her reading to me the long, long poem by Edith Sitwell about Sleeping Beauty, once she tucked me up in bed. I'd slowly drift off on a sea of musical, beautiful words about malevolent fairies and enchantments. Other favourites of Granny's included The Water Babies and Alice's Adventures in Wonderland, the latter a favourite of mine too, since the heroine had the same name.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?